What's up, everybody? Welcome to Political Fight Club. I was going to be done for the day, but then I stumbled upon this on Twitter and I just had to make one more episode. I never get tired of eviscerating Joe Biden, and it never ceases to amaze me exactly how shitty he is willing to be, especially after all of the promises that he made. So let's talk about what this numbskull did today. And I'm talking to you about a USA Today article here that I was given a link to via Twitter. So it turns out that Joe Biden has now abandoned upping the corporate tax rate to help pay for his infrastructure bill. And rather than upping the corporate tax rate, he's talking about closing tax loopholes that would make big corporations that don't pay any taxes whatsoever pay more via not avoiding taxes. Now, I've talked numerous times on this episode about Ro Khanna's Stop Cheaters Act. It does exactly this, and it basically just re-audits all of the wealthiest people in the country, and it closes all the tax loopholes and makes sure that they can't do tax evasion anymore. And that would gain minimum $1.2 trillion over the next 10 years. Now, that's about what Joe Biden is aiming for in his infrastructure plan, is about $1 trillion. Now I want to make it very clear. We need $5 trillion, $4.7 trillion to $5 trillion to actually fix the infrastructure. And the Republicans are offering something like $550 billion, which they knocked up to $920 billion in their most recent proposal. It looks likelier and likelier we're going to end up right about $1 trillion on the infrastructure plan. And Biden's initial bid was $3 trillion 1 month ago. You can go back and see that episode. I walked you through it the day that they dropped that proposal. It was $3 trillion. And within 3 days, it was $2.25 trillion, which I did another episode on. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about what happened here, and I'm going to read to you from the USA Today. In a concession to Republicans, President Joe Biden proposed that instead of raising the corporate tax rate to pay for a bipartisan infrastructure package totaling at least $1 trillion, they'd work to ensure corporations don't exploit tax loopholes. But the president still supports raising the corporate taxes to cover other parts of his agenda. Biden's latest infrastructure counteroffer proposed to Republican senators this week would keep President Donald Trump's 2017 tax cuts that they oppose unwinding, calling it a quote-unquote red line in their negotiations with the White House. The tweaked proposal would no longer raise the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28. By the way, Biden aimed at 28. It was 25 within a week after he aimed at 28. And just so you were clear, it was 35 under Obama. And I told you guys it ended up something down to 24%. It looks like he's going lower than that because he's not going to raise the corporate tax rate at all, and instead is just going to close loopholes. But I digress. The tweaked proposal would no longer raise the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28, relying on other funding components of Biden's American Jobs Plan, beefing up tax enforcement on the country's wealthiest earners and ensuring the largest corporations, some of which have avoided paying taxes because of loopholes, pay at least 15%. This is so frustrating. Now, am I against closing these loopholes? Of course I'm not. I would love for all these loopholes to be closed. So what Joe Biden is actually trying to do is he goes, I'm not going to up the actual corporate tax rate. We're just going to make the effective tax rate higher. Because the effective tax rate for some of these very large companies is 0, or we actually give them a whole bunch of money so they actually get positive in the taxes. Like Boeing, and I think it's Verizon, and a couple other companies, they actually get so much government subsidies that they pay negative taxes. So they actually get paid by the government, pay 0 taxes. So what Biden is trying to do is make sure that they can't do that anymore and make sure that the effective rate is at least 15%. And here's why I have a huge problem with it. If you're going to abandon your 25% to 28% corporate tax rate in favor of the Trump tax cuts, which make the corporate tax rate 21%, your minimum you should do is say, listen, fine, we'll abandon the 28 to 25%, we'll make it 21%, but we're going to make the effective tax rate 21% for corporations. He immediately goes down 6 more percent to 15%. And Republicans will go, no, fuck that. We're going to make we'll say that the corporations pay 5%, and we'll make the effective tax rate 5%. And then Joe will go, okay, fine, not 15, we'll go to 8%. And then it'll end up at like fucking 7%, because Joe Biden's a shitty negotiator and an absolute douchebag, and we're not even going to, like, the effective tax rate being 7 to 10% on the corporations, you and I, lower middle class or impoverished people, pay 24 to 30%. You telling me that they're going to pay 1/3 the effective tax rate that we do? The minimum Joe Biden should have done is say, listen, we're not going to cut the corporate tax rate down lower than 21%, but we are going to make that the effective rate by closing the loopholes. Minimum. But just another example in the list of 5 million examples since Joe Biden's been in office over the last 100 and so days of him immediately capitulating to the right wing and letting them out-negotiate him at every turn. You want to know why that is? Because Joe Biden's a moderate Republican. I've been saying it for years, and especially since he started running for office. And some of you decided to vote for him because he was the more electable guy. Well, now, he's not even going to go 1/5 the corporate tax rate under Obama, which was 35%, and he was vice president at the time. He's going to keep it at 21% and then make the effective tax rate something like 7 to 10, 7 to 12%. If we're lucky, very lucky, he'll get the effective tax rate to actually be 15%. And even if that's the case, that's half what you and I would pay as lower middle class or middle class people who pay 24 to 30% of their salary. I didn't vote for this fuck. I'd be disgusted if I voted for this guy. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. Shameful. So it really is a shame, guys, but not at all unsurprising. Joe Biden, literally by the day, is gaffing and capitulating to the right wing and being on the side of genocidal dictators and making a fool of himself in every way possible and being a pedophile and all these things, all the way bumblefucking his way through these first 2 years so that we get absolutely wiped out in the midterms, and the Democrats are going to deserve it, and they'll pretend like they had nothing to do with it when it does happen. They'll go, well, we will be like FDR. I want you guys to remember, FDR would never have aimed for an effective corporate tax rate of 15% or lower. FDR, my ballsack. So fuck Joe Biden. He's setting us up for absolute evisceration in the midterms. And I'm going to say I told you so when it happens. I hope it doesn't, but at this rate, it's a foregone conclusion. So shame on Joe Biden and shame on everybody that voted for him. This is exactly what you get. Should have known better. Vote correct next time. Keep fighting the good fight out there, guys. I'll talk to you later.